Our first epic of Remnant chapter is almost here, and with it, a plethora of new servants. Hello everyone, Soberoni of G&A Reviews here, with a new servant spotlight for Shinjuku. Today we'll be taking a look at FGO's most dapper dad, Shinjuku Archer. We'll be examining his stats and skills, as well as going over pointers on how to utilize him effectively, and an overall grade comparing him to how he stacks up to the other 5-star servants. Now, onto Archer's stats. Shinjuku Archer has a max HP of 13,685 and a max attack of 11,781, which becomes 11,191 when taking into account his class modifier. When compared to the other 5-star archers, his HP is a bit on the low end, while his attack stat is just about average. As for how he compares to the other 5 stars outside of his class, his HP remains below average compared to the other 5-star servants, while his attack ranks about the same. Overall, he has a very middle-of-the-road stat spread with no glaring advantage in either HP or attack. Taking a look at his skills, his first skill is Magic Bullet Shooter, rank EX. It applies Ignore Invincibility for 1 turn, and increases his critical star gather rate for 1 turn between 300 and 600% depending on level. His second skill is End of the Spider Thread, rank A++. It increases his NP gauge between 30 and 50% depending on level, and it also increases his NP strength by 20%. However, it does cost 10 stars to activate this skill as a demerit. And finally, his last skill is Evil Charisma, rank A. It increases the attack of all allies for 3 turns between 10 and 20%, and also additionally increases the attack of all evil allies except himself for 3 turns between 10 and 20%, both depending on level. For his passives, he has Magic Resistance rank D, which increases his debuff resist by 12.5%, and Independent Action rank A+, which increases his crit strength by 11%. Moving on to his deck and Noble Phantasm, Shinjuku Archer has an Arts deck with Quick, Arts, Buster, and a Buster Noble Phantasm. His Noble Phantasm, the Dynamics of an Asteroid, decreases enemy defense between 20 and 40% depending on overcharge, and also deals significant damage to a single enemy with between a 600 and 1000% damage modifier depending on level. Taking a closer look at his cards, we see that his Quick card hits 3 times, his Arts hits 4 times, his Buster hits 5 times, and his Extra Attack hits 6 times. He has an NP gain rate of 0.38% and a star rate of 8%. This translates into below average Noble Phantasm gain and average star generating. Despite his triple arts deck, his NP gain rate is low and he has no arts boosting passives to make up for it, but his star generating can be decent because of the high hit counts on all his cards. It seems like we have a lot of 5-star archers these days, but how does this old man stack up? Based on his stats alone, he isn't anything too special. Judging off of his stats, his HP, his attack, and his star generating all hover just around average. But thankfully his skills paint a much better picture. His first skill, Magic Bullet, grants both Invincibility Pierce and Crit Star Absorb. Both are strong buffs to have. Being able to pierce invincibility puts him in a good spot for fighting many annoying bosses, which is great since he is mostly a boss killer, but his crit absorb can put an extra hurt onto any brave chains that you have and seriously increase your Noble Phantasm gain. It's a necessity for him because his base NP gain is rather low. Speaking of which, End of the Spider Thread is yet another answer Shinjuku Archer has for dealing with his NP charge issues. It's a massive 50% NP charge, meaning that you can even Noble Phantasm immediately with craft essences like Golden Sumo or Halloween Princess equipped. It also gives you a tactics like Noble Phantasm damage buff. It lasts for 3 turns, which is significant, and this is going to be your super steroid that's going to set you up for a turn of big damage. However, it does have a huge downside in that it requires 10 crit stars to activate. While the skill is amazing, that is a steep cost of activation. And finally, the aptly named Evil Charisma is just a charisma that also gives an additional buff to evil aligned servants. This skill gives Archer access to a low cooldown, decent attack buff, which does help make up for his unimpressive attack stat, and additionally it does serve as good utility especially for other evil servants, of which there are many. For skill priority, you should prioritize Evil Charisma first, as that is your most consistent damage buff, followed by the End of the Spider Thread, as it provides very good charge and an NP buff even at rank 1. And finally, Magic Bullet last, because that's your most situational skill. You can choose to level End of the Spider Thread first over Charisma, but in my opinion you're not getting as much consistency or damage in the long run, especially because your NP damage buff does not scale with level. Shinjuku Archer's Noble Phantasm is a straightforward single target buster Noble Phantasm that also lowers enemy defense, making it a good lead to a Noble Phantasm chain. And there aren't that many 5-star archers with a single target Noble Phantasm. Only Orion and Archer Arturia, and both of them are art servants. So Shinjuku Archer does occupy a niche as your only option for a 5-star single target buster archer. Shinjuku Archer does possess a number of strong points. For one thing, he is a good crit servant to have thanks to his high ranking independent action and his crit star gather skill combined with his naturally high star weight as an archer. And any crit based servants are going to be strong as long as you can set them up well. And despite his low attack, he can do very good damage thanks to charisma and a single target buster Noble Phantasm. And his second skill is one of the best Noble Phantasm steroids in the game with a massive 50% charge and a strong NP damage buff. But unfortunately, Shinjuku Archer does have many shortcomings. For one thing, his damage. While decent, it does pale in comparison to the likes of the other archers like Gil, Tesla, and Ishtar. And he doesn't have as secure a niche as Orion or Squirtoria to differentiate himself enough from that trio. He also suffers from a mixed deck, much like Emiya and Arjuna. The idea behind an arts deck mixed with a buster Noble Phantasm is that you should be able to spam out your strong Noble Phantasm, but Shinjuku Archer's NP gain is very underwhelming considering his deck. And without crits or your second skill, you're going to struggle to charge your Noble Phantasm. When Shinjuku Archer can crit, he's a much better servant, but that tends to make him overly reliant on crits to supplement both his damage and his Noble Phantasm gain, which he can't generate enough of on his own. His second skill also requires having a huge injection of crit stars to work. 10 crit stars may not sound like a lot, but it does serve to make this skill a lot less reliable, and it's dependent on some setup. And therefore there are going to be times when you need to use the skill, but you only have 8 or 9 crit stars, which is a terrible feeling. And of course, Shinjuku Archer lacks any defensive skills whatsoever, which can put him at a disadvantage in longer battles without a healer. Let's move on to team comp. Shinjuku Archer should ideally be used as a crit servant. Having strong crit star generators can remedy many of his issues. Otherwise, if you lack crit generators, you can provide him with an NP battery to supplement his subpar NP gain and get more damage out of him that way. Some star generators that I do recommend for a crit team include Mozart, Jack, and Cursed Arm Hassan. Both Jack and Cursed Arm Hassan are fantastic star generators in their own right, and they also have the benefit of being evil, so they can make full use of Shinjuku Archer's charisma. Cursed Arm Hassan is a better budget option, while Jack is especially good if you need extra firepower. Mozart may not be evil, but he does provide a Star Bomb skill, which is perfect setup for your second skill. He also packs an arts deck with an arts buff to improve your NP gain. While on that topic, if you do want to improve Shinjuku Archer's NP gain, I recommend pairing him with Tamamo, Nero Bride, or Sansa. Tamamo is self-explanatory. She's a tremendous NP battery that also heals you and cuts the cooldown on your second skill, so you can keep Shinjuku Archer alive and make much more use of that NP charge. Nero Bride packs both a heal and a strong NP gain buff. Much like Tamamo, she provides defense and a good Noble Phantasm battery. And finally, Sansa, while not packing a heal, does provide a powerful NP battery and crit star drop buff for the whole team, allowing you much easier access to crit stars and NP gain simultaneously. Shinjuku Archer's Bondcraft Essence is the dynamics of an asteroid. It increases the NP strength of all evil allies by 25%. It's a decent but very niche craft essence, not worth using unless you're purposely building a team of all evil servants. Instead, you're going to get more benefit from specializing in either crit star focus or NP damage focus, depending on your team. For crit teams, I highly recommend Lunar Hot Spring, Talk of the Hot Sands, and Moonlight Festival. Lunar Hot Springs and Moonlight Fest make you much more self-sufficient in star generating if you lack a good star generator, while Talk of the Hot Sands is going to improve your crit consistency. Talk of the Hot Sands isn't exactly out yet, but it will be in a couple of weeks, that's why I included it here. For an NP focus, I highly suggest going with Halloween Princess, 3 Great Heroes, Here's Your Honor, and Cute RNJ. Halloween Princess is going to let you NP immediately with your second skill for quick burst damage, and both 3 Great Heroes and Here's Your Honor are going to buff your NP damage while also buffing your crit consistency, so they act as a middle ground. Meanwhile, Cute Orangeette is great in teams with an NP battery like Sanzo or Nero Bride because it's going to allow you to spam your Noble Phantasm. For future proofing, I really recommend Castle of the Sun, Trick or Treatment, and Summer Little. Castle of the Sun is excellent for a crit focus, Summer Little more for Noble Phantasm spamming, and Trick or Treatment if you want a little bit of both. Overall, Shinjuku Archer does have his strengths: good single target damage from his Noble Phantasm, potential to be a strong crit servant, and a very powerful second skill that allows you to Noble Phantasm quickly. He also has some support utility for evil aligned servants. However, he is weighed down tremendously by his lack of self-sufficiency. He suffers from consistency issues, as without a constant stream of crit stars, his NP gain and damage drop considerably, and he won't have access to his strongest skill. He has a single target Noble Phantasm, but no Noble Phantasm interlude, so his damage is still lacking compared to most of the other archers. He doesn't have a relevant or distinct enough niche. His mixed deck doesn't provide him any real advantage, and it really only hinders his damage potential, and he has no survivability whatsoever, making him not only overly reliant on crit stars from supports, but healing as well. So he gets a C from me. That may seem harsh, especially considering that in a good team, Shinjuku Archer can tackle some tough fights and work well enough, but so can literally every other archer at his rarity, and they can do it 100 times better than him as well, except for maybe this one, since he doesn't really have any great specialization and he requires a gigantic amount of babysitting and star feeding to work. The input just isn't worth his output in my opinion. And those are my thoughts on Shinjuku Archer. Honestly, he's one of the servants in most need of an interlude and strengthening quest. A few fixes to his Noble Phantasm and skills can really make him infinitely better. But at least he will still always have the title of the most dapper servant, and no one can ever take that from him. As always, let me know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and consider subscribing if you really enjoyed the video. Join the party over at our Discord, chill with us on Twitch, and follow us on Twitter. And I'll see you all in the next Servant Spotlight. Soberoni out. Later.